Hey there, Chris Howard here, and we are live at AfterBuzz TV. We're about to go live, but that would have been redundant. But we're going to be starting up here with The Profit, the after show for episodes 12 and 13. We're going to have a whole lot of fun coming up.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Sounds really punchy. I just came from jiu-jitsu, so I must be.
You got that. You got the adrenaline running.
Very
Aggressive.
physical. Aggressive. I'm sorry.
In a good way.
In a good way. Oh, you liked it.
In a good way. That's good aggressiveness.
All right, so welcome, guys, and welcome to the AfterBuzz breakdown for The Profit. I am Chris Howard. You can reach out to me, and please do. I like to hear from you. It's nice. It makes my ego feel good. Pumps up my what?
Oh,
pumps up my
your ego.
Happiness.
My happiness.
Your happiness.
Pumps up my
Your
happiness.
endorphins.
And my endorphins
There
when
you
you
go.
reach out. You can find me at Chris Howard Live on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also find me at legendarylivingdaily.com, where I give daily tips, motivation, that type of stuff, business, all sorts of stuff, as well as legendarylivingtv.com for YouTube. And I am joined by two beautiful, stunning, brilliant
Oh wow,
co-hosts.
that's good for our egos too.
I'm with that.
That are going to be sharing this time with us. And first over to my left is the one, the only
Miss Niena Drake. Hey, everybody. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Periscope at Niena Drake, NIENADRAKE. And on Facebook, DJ Niena Drake. And that's the same on YouTube. And my website's nienadrake.com.
A lot of places to find us. It's exciting. I love this age of social media. I am your co-host, Katerina Cozias. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Katerina Cozias. So nice and simple. You can also find me via my website. I've got a website, globalgab.com. That's global-gab, where I fill you in on what's trending internationally in the news. So stick with me if you want to know what's happening outside of the US of A. I'd love to share that with you.
beautiful, 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 and we do broadcast worldwide. So,
Right.
what's happening?
What's happening with The Profit?
Yes, we're talking about The Profit here today, and we're talking about episodes 12 and 13. And 13 was kind of it's the trickster, right? There's two episodes in one, so this is actually a 3D.
Yeah.
Yes.
Three-peat.
Three-peat. Right. Okay. So three-peats. So speaking of three-peats, we're going to start with episode 12, and that has nothing to do with three-peats, but I had to roll and sound cool. Right?
I was waiting for the
Like how the heck is he going to
link.
tie that in? But you see, it is tied in. Everything's tied in at some level, consciously and universally speaking. So episode 12, it was Kensington Garden Rooms. What'd you both think of this episode overall? What's your overall take? I tried to say that with no air. What's your overall take?
I have a big thing. This is random, but I love gazebos. I love them. And so when I saw that this episode was all about gazebos, I was so pumped. And they are beautiful gazebos.
They're awesome.
They were beautiful.
Yeah, they were very, very, very beautiful gazebos. I'm from a family of construction and carpenter and builders and designers, and so seeing the craftsmanship that they, put in
craftsmanship
that they put into, the gazebos was really, really awesome.
They were
really
beautiful.
Good. Yeah,
They
really
were
nice.
handcrafted, and you could see, you could feel the love in those. But I mean, the price point they were demanding,
Pretty high. You could buy like a whole car or like a second house.
A second house,
a
first
home
house,
down
a small island, a couple of children. You can buy,
Yes.
No, but you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you that these. I mean, when you saw the gazebos, you love gazebos.
Right.
I never even thought
Were
of
you
loving a
indifferent to them?
No. I never thought of loving a gazebo. But when I saw them, I wanted a gazebo.
Yeah,
That's how
absolutely.
beautiful they are.
yeah, they were great.
And that was, I mean, when they were walking. So Marcus met the business owners at the fair. What state fair?
It was like a random town, but
Okay, we'll say a random town state fair.
And just in case you guys missed this episode, these gazebos are going for anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So we're not talking,
Small car.
$900 at your Home Depot.
Right.
We're talking $25,000 to $35,000.
Right. Is that the
Craftsmanship.
price of the new Tesla?
Right.
You can get the newest Tesla, right? So not even the really cool one.
Right.
But the gazebos, you like, I could live in one of those things.
Yeah.
I loved them. They were
Yeah.
beautiful.
They were beautiful.
It looked like, but when you did see them, it looked like something that should be in the house of, Simon Cowell, or in the house of Richard
on an
Branson,
island
or on an
somewhere.
island.
You know?
And this is how the episode starts, is they're
Right.
marketing these $35,000 gazebos to people that are at a fair buying $2 hot dogs.
Right.
There was a bit of a disconnect in terms of trying to find the right buyer for this product.
Exactly. Like, who's going to buy a hot dog for $2? What did you think? Like, did they sell a lot of hot dogs? Or no,
I think
that was a joke.
I was going to say, I think you could take a lot of hot dogs and eat them in those gazebos.
Okay.
Although you might want to take some caviar with you as well.
Yeah, caviar and hot dogs in a gazebo. But and I'm sorry, I'm a little roughed up. I came in looking all scruffy and stuff. I just came from jiu-jitsu, so I'm like feeling a little feisty. But when you get to the state fair, there's people all over the place. But for me, and let me ask you what y'all thought. For me, it's kind of like doing the gazebo at the state fair. At first, I thought that's kind of like putting flyers on the windows of cars and saying, "Hey, let's buy it." Although I understand that there's a lot of traffic that goes through the state fair,
Right.
And with the size of these gazebos and the price point of the gazebos, I can imagine that the state fair might not be that bad of a place to be.
It wasn't, and they actually did get. They got a decent amount of sales from that. You would think certain, and I did say random earlier, but to the defense of what they were, their strategy or
Their
whatever strategy
marketing
that they had,
right.
Evidently the demographic that was attending this fair in particular had the money to spend on a gazebo in that price range. Now
they
you just
did.
needed to double that and have a wider reach and just be more strategic as opposed to being in one place. If you want a mass market, you can't just be in one single place to get to the mass
because they
market.
did say that 99% of their sales to that point had come from that fair.
From the fair.
Yeah.
And
So
Somebody's
that's
done it.
limiting. Yeah.
I wrote down. I got this offline.
Yep.
I wrote down Hillman, California. Is that? I haven't heard of a Hillman, California. Is
Not
that
sure what they're-
yeah.
What
It was
what,
Northern California, I think.
Yeah, well, somebody's rich over there in Hillman. Somebody got some money. Okay, $30,000 to buy a
But
gazebo.
they were making good net margin. The net margin on these was 25%.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's pretty good.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
so it was like what was it? I think it was 40% gross margin
Right.
and
Yeah.
25% net.
Yeah.
So the gross
So not a bad
gross
business.
margin once again is for if you're not familiar with gross margin, that's what's it cost with all the essentials to produce this gazebo. What's the cost to produce that? And then the rest would be the operating expenses that would be then deducted, and then we wind up with net margin. And at the end of the day, 25% net.
That's the money
wasn't
you
that
can
bad,
take
right?
home and go buy your hot dogs.
And go buy your hot dogs with, yes. They were doing pretty good. They sold 7 the first year. They've been in business, I believe, 3 years. They had sold 7 the year before. Sold
12, I think.
12
the second year.
the second year. But they're not getting the growth they want. They're at about $1 million, where they're 1.3, and then they were at 1.1 or somewhere in there, right around
about
the
$1 million
mark.
mark. Yeah.
So Marcus comes in. He loves the product, as we did, right? We all love the gazebos. He saw what you had mentioned, Niena, when it's like we need to get it won't work at this price point for mass market. And so as always, Marcus goes in and he looks at he wants to see the people, the product, as well as the process. People, process, product. He looks at the process. What did you think? What did he find out? What did he discover from your perspective, process-wise, that wasn't working? So product-wise, we say, okay, the price point is too high for mass market.
Yes.
We know that. How about process-wise? What did y'all see?
Well, the interworkings of the relationships were a bit in shambles.
People issues, processing the people issues,
That, and then their warehouse was like a garage, as he put it. It wasn't a full factory.
The glaring issue was the efficiency or lack thereof.
Right, and this is...
No inventory. There was no proper equipment. There was not even a bathroom in this place. People were having to drive to a separate unit, taking time out of their hours and their day, no communication. I mean, there was... a number of issues with the process.
It was a garage.
It was a
in
garage.
In the middle of what?
Operating $1 million business.
Was it almond orchards or something?
Yeah.
An almond orchard or something?
And I'm not mad at that.
No.
You know, until you, I'm gonna tell you this: in a business world, until you have the investments, the full money, or the stability in order to expand in a way that you're comfortable, because if they didn't have Marcus in, you know, in
You do what you can, right? If they don't have the market.
Hey, you make it work with what you got.
That's called
but you got to be a
right?
little
Where you do
bit
whatever it takes.
intelligent.
But they're growing. They wanted to grow, and they were actually growing to a point where it was important to put a more professional system in place.
Right.
And that
Right.
is what Marcus knew. But it was like, if they had done that any sooner, who knows if they would have wasted money, put the structure together in the wrong way. So I respect that they took that garage as far as they could go with that garage.
Right, and speaking of respect to the garage, you know, the one thing that I thought they had going for them that a lot of these businesses that Marcus looks at don't have going for them was that they were managing the margins. They were giving thought to that.
Yes.
So the guy, you know, he hadn't drawn a salary. One of the two partners hadn't, both from London, hadn't drawn a salary ever, and then he gives himself a $4,000 a month salary. He almost sounded apologetic when he said that to Marcus,
he was even
which
taking
is
that,
yeah, but
and
it's
I
good.
think that's what Marcus saw was the people in this case were good and the product was good.
Right.
So it was just the process that needed a little revamping.
Well, people were good, except for the fact that there was all this dysfunction between the relationships.
yeah.
Everybody thought they worked the most, right? Everybody said, "Oh, he doesn't. He works more than I'm working more than everybody. I'm working more than everybody. I don't get any credit." Everybody thought that they worked the most, and so there were people issues that he had to work his way through, which he does often. You know, the therapy inside the thing. So the facilities where they were creating these gazebos. You said that the garage was a mess. No bathroom inside there. At the end of the day, he ended up walking away. Marcus said, "I want you to get some things in order."
Right. He gave them 3 weeks. Yeah.
3
to
weeks.
go back with some sort of strategy.
So he gave him a task. He said, "Get this done, and
then we'll see."
We'll see if I invest," which is actually a very smart way for him to do it. Because in therapy and coaching, which I've done for 20 years, we'll sometimes give tasks to people. You'll give a behavioral task.
Do you do that to check to see how
Their
motivated they are, invested? Yeah.
Yeah, their investment for the change. Like Dr. Milton Erickson was a famous hypnotherapist, and he'd have, if somebody wanted to come see him for weight loss, he'd make them climb Squaw Peak, climb this mountain before.
Right. How committed are you before I invest my time?
But you have to do that when I, as a DJ, when I wanted to learn how to DJ, I had people take me through the ringer if I was asking them for help. If I wanted them to help me, then they wanted me to prove that I was in it, you know, for the long haul and that I was serious about it. And I think that's a worthy task to put people up to.
Right.
It's your time and your money and your energy and your thoughts and creativeness. So why not put people through a test?
Be methodical about how you do. We could take that even to hiring, couldn't we? Like, you know, we'll do this, hiring, investing. If you do this, and see how people actually show up.
Yeah.
My ex-business partner used to do that. He said when people would come in, and it's interesting because from a sales perspective, when we're selling, they say if you're talking, you're telling, you're not selling. If you're selling, you're going to be asking more questions, so you can find out exactly what the customer needs, and then you serve it. My ex-business partner, his belief is that if he was doing an interview for somebody, that he would ask the questions, and he didn't want to do much talking because he didn't want them just to feed back what he knew what they knew he wanted to hear.
Yeah, and they would just like agree with everything. Like, yeah, I agree with that too. Like you go on a date and and the strategy that guys
I really
put
love
on.
Superman.
No, guys literally, I've been told this not by my female friends, but guy friends. They'll be like, "Oh, so you know what? I just agree with everything she likes. If she likes chocolate ice cream, I like chocolate ice cream.
That's my favorite."
And in business, some people do the same thing.
Right.
They just want to seem, you know, agreeable and likable, and they just agree with everything you say when they really don't even know what you just said.
Now the question is, though, what would you want? Would you want the person that just agreed because you know that they're going to follow through? Because I remember when I went to go hire I did I wanted to work for Dale Carnegie Training at one point. And I went into the guy that was going to hire me, and I said, what do you want, and what are you looking for in an employee? And I wrote down the list of all the things, and then I knew I had the roadmap to make him happy. So I knew that he was looking for these types of things. So for me, it seems like a valid strategy, but then there's also the other side of things where there might be somebody who's a good salesperson, but then doesn't fulfill their end of the bargain once they get into it.
It should be a healthy exchange. I think everybody's in it for their, for their own reasons, and communicating and asking what those things are. I think you should ask and present. It shouldn't just be one way.
So what did you guys think of what the team, Damien and Simon, came back with after the 3 weeks?
Yeah, now that's interesting, because so what did we think about that? We looked at they cleaned out the garage.
Do you think they delivered?
Right?
Yeah.
They
had a plan. They had plans
for the new facility that they were they had laid it out. I thought it was, when I saw what they came up with, I was about 60% there, quite frankly. I wasn't blown away. Were you guys blown away with how they had stepped up?
No, I wasn't blown away either, but I wasn't actually expecting to be blown away. I felt like that it was just an exercise that Marcus was putting them through, one, to show their commitment and their seriousness, and two, they again are people that were stretching a garage to its max. And so I wasn't expecting an elaborate presentation. I just was happy that
it's not like they had a bunch of cash to go do it with. They had
they were smart, and they came up with whatever their limits are, and I think that's part of where Marcus again is very strong, and he knows where his strengths are and where his weaknesses are, and I think that was another reason why he had them do it, because it showed what they were good at and what they were bad at. They're not great designers, but I mean, as far as on a planning of a business level, but when it comes to their product, they know how to make and sell their product. But like the business, that's why Marcus is there.
There you go. What do you think about that, Katerina?
I was going to say, what deal did he offer them? Because he obviously was happy. He did offer them a deal.
Yeah, he offered them.
It was split 3 ways though, because there were 3 owners, not just 2.
What did we think of the third owner, the silent partner, Cabe?
You know what always shocks me is that Marcus
Shady boots.
You know what shocks me is Marcus doesn't find this out until the episode. Like, you would think that there would be
some
diligence that he would do prior to getting in there, because he'll say, you own 100% of this business, right? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
But maybe that's part of the drama that makes for a good show. But yeah, so they've got this new business. They've got this third business partner that they present.
Right.
And what did y'all think about him? That was, what's his name? Wes?
AKA Shady Boots.
AKA Shady Boots. What did you think? I mean, he originally put in what?
I think he put in $150,000.
About 150.
Right,
yeah.
for 33% of the business.
For 33, what is it? 33 1/3%? Is that of
for
the
1/3
business?
of it, yeah.
So we split the business was split 3 ways between the 2 partners.
Damien the operator, Simon the designer, construction craftsman.
And they came together with good. This is how they came together in a lot of business partnerships. If you're looking to make a business and create a business, 2 guys with great skills. One of them made gazebos for the largest gazebo maker in town, and one of them, one of them sold gazebos.
Right.
Yes.
That was it. He sold gazebos for the largest gazebo sales place, and the other one said, "Hey, I can make these. I can do this thing." And they had the makings of a business. That's the way it often happens. And then we had the third person that threw in the cash,
the investor. The creator, the business mind, aka marketer, and the investor.
Yes,
those were the 3 elements.
That's how it came together. 3 elements came together. Now, the investor comes to the table, and Marcus makes his Marcus makes his offer. Right, his offer was, and I think you just said it. His offer was 100, and I found this fascinating. I want to know what you think, because it surprised me how he did it.
I know where you're going with this.
Yes, I know you know where I'm going, but it's coming anyway, right? It's kind of like when you saw the trailers for Batman, Superman. You knew where it was going, but it's coming anyway. Let's see, $150,000 he would put into the business. Which is relatively small based on some of his past investments.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, not addition. What he wanted was 12% of the business, which is less than I thought he'd ask for, and he wanted the other 12. He wanted that 12% that he got to come out of the third that was owned by the non-active investor.
Right.
Yes, because he was trying to get him out of the mix,
out of the picture. What are your thoughts? Why Why would he do it that way? Was it a good way? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks?
The one thing that spoke to me was the fact that he was trying to preserve the ownership interest of the two leaders,
right,
Damien and Simon, and he was also being fair in that he gave Jack, the little worker, an ownership interest. Jack, the little worker.
The little worker. You sound like Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. Jack, the little worker. No, I'm joking. I apologize.
There's no guillotine here.
Yeah.
The thing again that I'll go back to that I like about Marcus as an entrepreneur is that he has a heart. He's a very smart businessman, but he's also there to make people's lives better. I genuinely believe that. I think that comes through with what he does with these investments. And so he realized pretty quickly that, guess what? This silent partner, Cabe financier, is a little bit useless.
So is that what his name was, Cabe?
That's what I wrote.
Yeah, you probably wrote it better.
Cabe is what I had down.
His name was Cap.
Cap,
Cabe, Wes. It's pretty close, right?
His name was Cap.
I found that as a fair deal. Marcus is coming in. He'll stay as a financier at the same percentage as the other financier.
Okay, so you saw it as a fair deal.
I did.
Stayed at the same position. What did you think, Niena?
Well, I felt it was very strategic and smart of Marcus.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he felt that Cap was not doing anything.
Right.
Cap was literally he was milking his initial investment for everything that he could, and he was looking at Marcus like, oh, here's the day I'm going to cash in.
Right.
And he really wasn't putting anything into it. There's a difference between, like, when you look at Shark Tank.
Well, he did put in the money, though.
He did put in the money, and that's cool. You got your initial investment.
Right.
But when it comes, and without them, they said that. They gave him his credit where it was due, and they were like, without him, it wouldn't have been possible.
It would have happened.
For them to even get to where they are today. So, Cap, they appreciated what he had done, but I felt like Marcus saw that in the long term, again, Marcus is very big picture, long term perspective. He saw that Cap was literally going to continue to do nothing. He wasn't going to add any more value. He wasn't going to add any more time, energy, or anything to it. So,
I agree 100% with y'all, but I want to play a devil's advocate just for a second to think around the corner. But I do agree 100%. As an entrepreneur starting a business, somebody throws in some money that they wouldn't be able to launch their business without. And there's, we can invest a couple of things. We can invest our money, or we can invest our time. And so these guys were going to invest their time. The investor was going to invest his money with the hope for an upside return. And you have both active investors and non-active investors. So this guy was going to be he's a non-active partner. He was doing the numbers. He was controlling that aspect of it. Is that okay? Is that okay to put that money in? And is it okay to expect that that investment expands?
Absolutely, you guys. This is classic venture capitalism.
Yeah.
There are so many small businesses that are being angel funded. The angel investor or the active investor isn't necessarily in there building the gazebos.
So you have those that are non-active investors.
I think it's fine.
But if it's fine, then why would the percentage have to come out of the non-active investor?
Because of the fact that...
I agreed with your other position, but I want to know...
Right, because of the fact that I think, again, Marcus is looking at what is the weakest link. And it wasn't just from a financial perspective. He was not available for consultation. I think that's...
Right,
that's what bothered Marcus, is the fact that he was unavailable for discussions, for that sort of thing.
Right.
But it goes back to your first point.
Yeah.
If all he wanted to do was, you just say he wanted to just invest money and let the money grow, right? Well, you can't have the expectation that if I'm investing money alone, that all I'm going to do is that you're going to need to call me and consult with me. If I'm like
non-active.
If I'm non-active, then all you need is my money, and I'm gonna go sit on this island and sip a colada somewhere.
But that's what he did.
But the thing is, and he literally did that. He left.
But they wanted a team player.
Because at the end of the day, Marcus was coming in from the outside, and what he could see was the possibility of really big growth with the company, and he saw that Cap was not going to invest any more time, energy, money, resources, energy at all.
He was dead weight.
He was a waste of space. And so Marcus was basically, in a polite business contractual kind of way, writing him out of the company.
What did you think of him coming back and asking for a buyout?
That was greedy.
Well, that was interesting to me, because here he comes in. he's, he gets written out of the picture, and he's okay. And you got to have some leeway here because the guy's on television. And there's cameras on him, and Marcus has some prestige, and but ultimately, you, me, him, we're all responsible for our own lives, our own decisions. And he said, yes, okay, I'll take that. Because Marcus offered to buy him out for $150,000, which essentially means that you get your money back, but you don't get anything. I apologize.
It was 200.
Well, originally it was 150,000, but he was going to lose 12%. So to be clear, so his 12% was going to go to Marcus. Normally, if we go out for more investment dollars after initial investment dollars, there's a dilution of the shares where everybody's value goes down. He wanted the value to go down only for the non-active partner. So the non-active partner says yes, then comes back in. He goes home and thinks about it, thinks he's got screwed, thinks he got. And he says, you know what? It's not a fair deal. I want more. I want you to buy me out. And Marcus says, okay, I'll write you a check for $200,000 then. Is that what he said? $250,000. I'll write you $250,000. So he was going to write him $100,000 more, which would mean if he put $150,000 in at the beginning of the business,
he made a nice
he
chunk of
cashed
change
out for $100,000. That's, I mean, if the business was truly in business for 3 years, I mean, that's a pretty darn good return.
Yeah. So, and then he, on top of that, Marcus was saying that it was a bit greedy because he was asking, for extra money that is Sunday. He's like, I just gave you your buyout. My son
did computer work.
Yeah, I gave you your buyout. Like, what are you doing? You're trying to just get as much as you're trying to nitpick and ask for more and more and more. Right. And that's.
We want to know what you guys at home think.
Yeah, what do you
Let us know what you think of
that?
the cab's reaction to this
We do want to know. I want to, and if whether you agree with the things that we've said or whether you take a total opposite stance.
We'd love to hear from you. Absolutely.
Because it's a fascinating point that and how the buyout occurred. It didn't occur because then Marcus took it back.
He pulled the deal
back to the original deal.
Pulled the deal back to the original deal. Then they go. We'll move beyond that right now because we got so much to cover and so little time.
Right.
But then he goes, as he often does, once he gets the processes starting to look pretty good, the product, they end up producing a product for a lower price, for a lower price range. Consumer, thank you very much. I consumed your words. Pretty good. So for a lower price range consumer, and he brings them to True Value.
Brings it to the under to
a distribution network, network. Yeah, because that's the real customer. If they can sell a True Value, then or multiple True Values, now they've got True Value. And
they managed to keep a lot of the craftsmanship intact.
Right, so they lowered the price point, which is absolutely amazing to me.
That was very impressive.
And it doesn't mean that they can't go back and do those specialty $30,000 gazebos for the elite customers. Right. It just makes it more affordable and economical.
When she says elite, she means better human beings.
No, I mean,
if you're a better human being,
honey, you got
deserve.
The coins.
You got the bag. Tweet us back about that.
You got
that's a joke.
The bag. The more wealthier clientele, if they could still take those special orders, but for the mass market.
You could have catalogs at True Value that say, hey, if you want the deeper product line, check this out. People look at it and they go, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the 30,000, 40,000 really are stunning. And when you looked at the new gazebos, I could see somebody buying that, but the other ones were to die for. You want to drool over those. They're so good,
Overall, a good episode, though. I enjoyed it.
Okay, is that a wrap-up on your part?
I want to go on to episode 13,
she wants to talk about episode 13. Okay, well, 13 is an interesting number. They don't even have 13s. Elevators and all that stuff, but we're going to go on to 13. And we had some problems in episode 13, right?
A lot of problems.
The one other thing that we'll just cap off 12 with as we move beyond is Marcus thought that one of the workers desermed a little bit more equity than they were giving, 5%. They moved him up to 10%. He started to clean up the relationships and stuff inside there. So we see some thematic linkage with everything Marcus has done before in terms of cleaning up relationships, processes, squeezing out a better margin, and also rewarding the people that are working on a daily basis and making them feel like part of the team.
In my opinion, when you can take a young person at that stage of their career and motivate them, get them invested in the business, it will only pay dividends. Absolutely.
Jack,
100
I
times
shed a
over.
tear. Well, I didn't shed a tear. Jack shed some tears.
Jack shed some tears.
And Jack, you deserve that.
I think Jack was a hard worker, so I think this was a
It
nice,
was.
nice
I think that's
payback
fantastic.
for him.
I think that's
Yeah.
really cool.
And I think he'll work doubly as hard.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the type that's going to say, "Oh, I got it. Now I'm going to go rest under the trees."
Absolutely. You know what spoke most to me in that episode was the fact that I had similar things with a business thing where I went in, and when it came time when my business partner said, "Hey, we're going to put money in," everything was the opposite of how that arrangement worked. It wasn't.
really?
Yeah, it was like I'm gonna stay inactive, but I'm gonna take more and more and more. So it was like it was fascinating to watch how the
And you know, it's
different
all a
dynamics work.
negotiation at the end of the day. This
It is. And, you know, I had a good friend of mine who said, never play with sharks or be one. You know, and I don't get the sense that Marcus is a shark in these, you know, at least on TV.
He's just very business minded, and
Very
he knows how
business-minded.
to be
He's
strategic,
putting-
and he thinks long term. Every single decision he makes is always long
But
term.
shouldn't it always be for all of us long term?
Yeah,
would
but
think.
everybody doesn't always think that way, and I think the shark mentality is actually ask for forgiveness, not permission. They just do things recklessly, and
Right.
they are sharks because they're sometimes more greedier, and
I
they
think
they
it's
think
competition
short-term.
versus creativity.
You know, and
That yeah, absolutely, it's part of that too. It's like all those elements. But your friend, whomever he was, made a really good point.
Yeah.
He made a really good point because I think if you're going to be a fair business person,
It was actually a woman, just to be clear. That was DC
Whoever
Cordova
she
who said that to
was.
me. Yeah, so yes.
she.
Never play with sharks or be one.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but we still have to know that we're in the ocean, and so there's always those. So we have to have the awareness that even if what do they say? Even if you don't treat somebody in one way, doesn't mean that it's the lion's nature to
Take off the rose-colored
go
glasses.
after the prey,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So. People won't always treat you the way you want to be treated or the way that you would treat them in
Yeah.
business. So there's always needs to be that awareness. But that's why I like the character of Marcus. He shows up consistently. I like that. So we move into episode number 13. 13.1.
Yes.
13.1, the lobster.
You know why I like this? Because I love lobster.
And I love lobster rolls.
Yeah. You know, in Australia, they would call it lobster. Get the lobster.
I'm definitely allergic to lobster. So
You're
anyone
allergic?
that wants to take me for dinner,
sucks
please
so
don't
bad.
take me to a seafood restaurant.
Okay, let me just state as we're going into this episode that Katerina is single.
I'm single. So if you
she-
want to buy me dinner, please take me to a steakhouse.
She's single and
Tweet us.
Yes, and look, I was going to auction you off,
Oh,
but
my
I didn't know.
goodness.
Can I
Can we
legally
send the money
take
to
money in
charity?
California? We used to send it to charity.
I'll give it
I was
to
going to make
charity.
some right here. Yeah, I don't know if we can do that. I might get
we
myself
go.
in trouble. So
That's a different show.
I'm not going to auction you off.
That's a different show.
All right, so 13.1. Don't take her for lobster. It's called The Lobster, and the lobster is it's a food cart that's and basically
Truck.
it's a truck. Food truck. I just came back from New York. They have them everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, food truck, Chicago, Illinois. The deal that ended up being made was $210,000 for 51% of the business is what he was going to do, or what he put out there to him. What were your thoughts about this episode?
I was disappointed. One, because it was a great product, and Chicago's my hometown, and Jay, the owner, he just made some bad decisions. I think he
Right.
was very immature in his thinking as a business person. He just made really bad decisions.
I disagree with you. No.
I think all that debt, he had over $400,000 in debt, and he was
Close to
going to
$500,000.
Yes, and it's not like it's impossible. And no, Marcus is not the only person that can help you in the business world. But I felt like the 51% is where he got caught up, and that was the ego that got in the way of him getting all the help that he could have got.
I'll let you know what I think. $400,000 worth of debt, none of which was his. He had invested zero. He had borrowed money from his grandmother,
think
from
was a
his
problem.
father, from his brother, from his sister. And not only was he running the business into the ground for various reasons, he was also funding all of his personal expenses, going to the movies and hanging
His
out at the
lifestyle running
restaurants.
through. Now, did you?
And which a lot of businesses do.
Right, so he was crossing accounts and stuff.
He was
But
reckless with his money.
He was being disrespectful of somebody else's capital.
There you go. And that's an interesting aspect of it. Let me ask you this.
And that's why Marcus wanted the 51%, so that he could control that.
Right. Now, the thing was that he, from the beginning, Marcus said he didn't have any skin in the game. And
Right.
we'll hear that a lot
Yes.
from investors. They want people that have skin in the game so that they have something to lose.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, that's what Warren Buffett's philosophy, because a lot of business owners will give equity in the company simply for people working there. Warren Buffett has a different philosophy where he says if they want equity, they should have skin in the game. They should buy that equity. I can give them a bonus at the end of the year.
And
if they choose to purchase shares,
Yeah.
that's their choice.
But that's based
and they'd be
on
very smart to do that.
And it's based on personality types too, right?
Right.
Like Jay was not very responsible. He was
Right.
actually very irresponsible, and Marcus saw that, and he wasn't going to allow his investment to be used the same way everyone else, like his grandmother, his sister, and everyone else had invested in him. Jay would have took Marcus's money and probably went to Vegas to party with it.
Right,
Who
exactly.
knows? Who knows? And so if I were Marcus,
Right.
I would have asked for the exact same thing, because I saw how he was treating other people.
Controlling interest.
Absolutely.
Now, what's interesting is Marcus says in every deal that he does now, and in season 1 he wasn't doing it as much. Now it's I have 100% control, regardless
For a period of time. Yes.
for a period of the time, regardless of who has controlling interest in the company. That's part of the deal
Right.
that he makes.
Jay didn't want to give that up.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he
he
didn't wanna
needed to give it up to somebody, because he didn't show
Right.
any examples of things that he had made decisions with that were working, besides
Right.
the fact that he picked to do the truck when the store closed, and
Right, so he
it
had
was
3
making
brick and mortar
money.
locations that were making. So the truck he had mentioned at one point made more in 2 hours at lunchtime than the restaurants would make in a whole day. And the first question that pops up in everybody's mind is, then why do you have brick and mortar locations that cost to have this whole overhead and all
Yeah.
that? Why not close those down, replicate it, roll out more
And
food
that's
trucks?
probably what Marcus would have done,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Don't you
exactly
think he
what he
would have
would've
came
done.
in and he would have totally shut down, because the flagship store, which was his initial store, was still standing. Unfortunately, the owner sold it to a real estate developer, right? That's why
Right.
that got relinquished. But at the end of the day, Marcus was going to come in and he was going to get rid of those 2 other brick and mortar stores and just
Roll out
probably
more
roll
food
out more
courts.
fleet of trucks.
What
Like,
did you
I don't
think?
that was bad.
What did you think of Jay?
Jay, the business owner?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, you look at it and the way the show. See, this is the tough part for these poor people that go on the show, and not poor people, but you got the cameras that go
Right.
in, and it's like, okay, you've been irresponsible here, and for me, you look at it and you go, yeah, the guy's been irresponsible with other people's money, and what are you going to do with that? We need to clean up the way that he spends that cash. Yeah, and he was running the 2 finances. You know, he's running his finances through the thing. Do either of you remember? Because I didn't catch this. Was he taking a salary? Was he drawing a salary
Yes,
from the
he
business?
was. He
taking
was drawing
everything
about
he could.
$4,000 a month.
So that was in
Yeah.
addition to his salary. So you couldn't call them legitimate business expenses because there were all these movies and stuff like that. And he's like, what are these movies about Lobster?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there are legitimate business expenses. That's not one of them.
Yes.
So now, depending on the type of corporation that he had, it could be he could still be taking it as a draw.
Well, he
There's
was,
lots
he
of
was
yeah.
cookie jarring, right? This is a pool
Right.
of money that he was just taking
Yeah, he was
whenever he
just
wanted
taking,
to.
which, you know, depending on, once again, the type of corporation, how he does his accounting and stuff is not necessarily
legal. Right, it's
illegal.
not,
but
not
it's,
illegal, but is it unethical?
is it good business practice?
To a degree.
Yeah.
I think to a certain extent you have valid business expenses. Now, if Jay would have taken a trip to do research in how he could lower his expenses on his products, like you
Right.
take a trip to New England and you're
Right.
trying to meet other vendors, that's legitimate. It's still entertainment. Not to say that you can't play while you
Scuba
work.
diving in the
right?
Cayman Islands
Hey,
to examine
hey,
lobster in their
nothing wrong with
natural
that.
habitat. Yeah.
I'm gonna
I'll
go
go
taste.
on that trip.
I'm gonna go taste 10 other vendors' lobster rolls.
I'll
I
go.
mean, it's work, right?
I-
So
overall,
I
what
don't
do you-
have a
this
problem
one-
with that.
Yeah, because we do have this other. We got to talk about Betty's.
I like the Lobster because I liked the surprise element. For me, it was a
different.
surprise that
Yeah.
Marcus walked away.
They got
so
in
I
and
thought
out of
that
that
was cool.
quick.
What do you and what do you think blew
That's
that
never
deal?
happened in the Profit history,
Well,
though, right?
he's had some no deals come through. Like he's
Yeah, he's had a
got.
couple
He snatched them back, but they were literally the full episode. I don't think we've ever seen one
half
episode
half episode
cut
like
in
this.
half like this.
But you know what I
Right.
liked the way they transitioned the 2 episodes is he basically said, "I'm going to go work with somebody that I think deserves my time and effort."
the time and effort.
Yeah.
What do you think was the breaking point for Marcus in this episode?
His immaturity, Jay's immaturity, and his lack of being responsible and seeing the big picture.
And his inability to give up
his inability to be flexible.
To be flexible within the deal structure.
That was a red flag.
And to follow somebody. Okay, I got it. So we know that with those traits that nothing's going to change.
Pride and ego. And Marcus said that in the end. Don't let that get in the way of your business. And to everyone listening and watching.
No to listening.
Don't let
that ended up
to show her that in order to have your team help you, help me help you.
Help me, yeah.
Help me help you. And so write this stuff down and be more organized. And so that was like
So he gave a task. She didn't follow through on the task very well.
She wasn't a good listener.
Not a very good listener.
She had passion though. But I think to your point, Niena, he was trying to rein her in, which is why he went ahead and made her close the second venue, which was Elizabethan Desserts. Right? They had nothing to do with each other, no consistency in branding.
So no brand consistency.
It was pulling her apart in terms of her time and ability to manage both stores. So he just said, that one's done. Close that up, and I will offer you $75K for 25% of your business.
That's not uncommon. Also, there's a concept that I got from Brian Tracy called zero-based thinking. He said, knowing what I now know, would I still do what I'm doing? And you get to a point like that in your business.
In the 2 episodes, 13.1 and episode 13.
That one aspect of the business opener, that one aspect, and Marcus comes in and says, we're going to get rid of that aspect.
Yeah, it's hard. I think a lot of the business owners that come on this show have this, there's a balance between I want to be successful in this business and I have this emotional connection.
This love for the product.
There's this too emotional connection to it, and which is why it was hard for her to pull away from that business. But I'm glad that Marcus...
Both of them were lacking in focus, but also pride, right? A lot of pride. And you saw it even with Betty.
Yeah,
you saw it with Jay, and it killed the deal. And good luck to Jay, I think, because those restaurants are going to be hurting.
Yeah, but well, to Niena's point before, the love for the product, we hear that all the time, that you have entrepreneurs that fall in love with the product so much. So it was like the episode we did last week with or the week before on the dog food store, where she was so. This is the one we didn't have you for. We missed you. But they talked about the dog food, and they were they wanted to hold on to their philosophy around it so much, even though it wasn't getting them ahead. And even though it wouldn't make the ultimate impact that they wanted to. So falling in love with the product can be an issue oftentimes. And the self-righteousness around the passion.
Yeah.
We hold on to this idea, we want it to go that way, this great idea, but sometimes we need guidance and that mentorship to channel the energies to do the same thing.
Well, you need flexibility in business.
Passion versus obsessiveness. You can't obsess over something, because when you need to let it go, like we're gonna live and die with when we go, there's not gonna be anything left.
We're going, they're not gonna figure us out before.
I'm trying to figure out how to clone myself so I can stay forever, but that ain't working. But it's a very delicate balance. Once you have to have passion in order to be successful in your business and have other people support you, but you have to know how to allow your baby to grow. It's like if you have kids, you got to let them grow and go into the world and go to college, and it has to flourish.
Especially if you start to bring in capital like a Marcus, or if you bring in VC capital and you've got people that have different ideas about how that growth is going to occur. Now you got people you got to work with and you got to negotiate with.
She had a totally different attitude than Jay had.
Yeah, which
in terms of her investment in her business.
Right.
These are opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. What do you think? You think she was a better business person than Jay?
No. I think she was a smarter business. There's better and smarter is different to me, because Jay had what I felt like just his ego just got in the way, which mean you're not smart. She was smarter because she saw the big picture.
She saw the big picture. What do you think? Better business person?
I found them both to be lacking, to be a little bit weak,
Right.
but she did gain points because of her willingness to understand that she needs this support.
Yeah, we should have, that television show, Naked and Afraid? We should have survival scores for these people.
Right,
it's Naked and Afraid in business. We just came up with a new idea.
It's called
Naked and Afraid in Business.
All right,
the Apprentice, Naked, the Naked Apprentice.
We're going to get you a business synopsis here tomorrow, next week.
Here's what we want you to do. We're at the top of the hour, so please reach out to us. Join the conversation, because we love to have an integrated experience. You know what I'm integral, yes. So reach out to us, talk to us, tweet at us, leave some notes underneath the episode guide. Tell us what you think, any business insights, understandings you'd like to throw.
Tell us which episode you like the most out of these 3 combined into 2. too?
Do it.
We
Do
wanna
it.
know.
Do it. Do it. Over here, we've got our lovely co-host. Tell us where we can get you.
Thank you for being with
Katerina.
us. Katerina Cozias, at Katerina Cozias, Instagram and Twitter. Hit me up. Thanks for being with us.
Hit her up. She's single.
And Niena Drake. I'm single too, but hey. Niena Drake.
She's Lobster.
NienaDrake.com. At Niena Drake on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, and Snapchat.
And Niena's a DJ, so you're both single. She might be, there might be some opportunity between the two. Okay, anyway. Chris, shut up. I'm Chris Howard. You can, you're looking at me like, shut this guy up. You can reach me at Chris Howard Live. You can find me also at legendarylivingdaily.com for daily tips, motivation, business types of fun stuff, and legendarylivingtv.com for YouTube, and here at AfterBuzz TV, watch this.
Yes.
Also, remember, get the iPod, the download. So download us on iTunes. It's the best place to hear this stuff all the time. Much love.
Yes.
Over and out. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.